In 1962, America vowed to outpace the world with a jet that flew 3 times the speed of sound. Boeing promised their 2007 would make Concorde look slow, swing wings, titanium, and seats for 300. But that ambition created an airliner so bold it nearly bankrupted Seattle. Why did the jet that was supposed to secure America's supersonic future become the project that killed it? The answer begins with a race for pride and ends in disaster. In the spring of 1962, the world's jet-age rivalry turned into a national obsession. President Kennedy stood before Congress and declared that America would not just match but outpace any foreign challenge in the sky. The message was clear. The United States would build a passenger jet faster and grander than anything Europe or the Soviets could imagine. Across the Atlantic, British and French engineers were already deep into work on a joint masterpiece, the Concorde. Sleek, needle-nosed, and promising to carry travelers from London to New York at twice the speed of sound, Concorde's first metal was being cut. Meanwhile, in Moscow, the Tupolev Design Bureau was racing to build the Tu-1444, a Soviet answer that aimed to fly even sooner and prove the USSR's technical might. The headlines in 1969 said it all. Concorde's first flight in April, Tu-1444's maiden flight that June. For the first time since the dawn of jet travel, it looked like America might lose its lead. The stakes stretched far beyond airline profits. This was Cold War theater, where prestige surged at Mach speed and every breakthrough made front-page news. The White House feared that if Pan Am or TWA ordered Concordes, the world would see the United States flag slip from the nose of the world's fastest airliner. Congress opened the checkbook. The Federal Aviation Administration called on American aerospace giants to submit blueprints for a homegrown supersonic transport, one that would leave Concorde and the Tu-1444 trailing in its wake. The target wasn't just speed. The United States design had to be bigger, carrying nearly 3 times the passengers of the European jet, and faster, aiming for Mach 3, almost 2,000 miles per hour. The numbers were staggering. A 93-meter-long airliner, 4 massive engines, and a capacity that would shrink the Atlantic for 300 people at a time. Airlines lined up, eager for the promise of a new golden age of flight. But with every new promise, the challenge grew. The world was watching. The United States could not afford to come second. The pressure to deliver a plane that was not just a technical marvel, but a symbol of national pride set the stage for a contest that would stretch the limits of engineering, economics, and political will. Boeing's answer would soon take center stage, carrying not just passengers, but the weight of American ambition. On December 31, 1966, Boeing won the contract that would define a decade. Their blueprint promised not just a supersonic jet, but a revolution in the sky. The numbers alone read like science fiction. 93 meters from nose to tail, nearly a third longer than Concorde. 4 General Electric GE4 turbojets, each capable of more than 63,000 pounds of thrust, would push this giant to Mach 2.7. Faster than a rifle bullet and nearly a full Mach above its European rival. The target was clear: carry almost 300 passengers across the Atlantic in just over 2 hours, with a range of 4,000 miles. At the heart of this vision stood Maynard Pinnell. He was Boeing's chief designer and the public face of the 2707. Pinnell pitched the plane as the ultimate answer to both physics and prestige. The real magic, he said, would be in the wings. Instead of locking the airframe into a single shape, the 2707 would use variable geometry, swing wings that could pivot from 0 to 60 degrees. Wide open for takeoff and landing, then swept back razor-sharp for supersonic cruise. It was a trick borrowed from military jets like the F-111, but never attempted at this scale. For Pinnell, this was America's ace, an airliner that would be stable and safe at low speeds, then transform into a dart at Mach 3. Boeing's renderings showed a double-decker cabin, first-class lounges, and panoramic windows, luxury for a new era. Mock-ups toured the country, drawing crowds who wanted a glimpse of the future. Airlines lined up with deposits, seduced by the promise of speed and spectacle. Pan Am, TWA, Alitalia, 26 carriers in all, signed for 122 planes before a single prototype left the ground. The world's press called it the Queen of the Skies. But the ambition was as heavy as the metal itself. The swing wing mechanism alone demanded a titanium pivot over 11 feet long and weighing more than 2 tons. Each new requirement, range, safety, comfort, added complexity and weight. Every engineer in Seattle knew the risks, but the mood was electric. Pinnell and his team believed they could outsmart the laws of aerodynamics, and for a time, the world believed it too. The promise was simple. America would not just catch up. It would leap ahead on wings that could change shape and a jet that would make the Atlantic feel like a pond. The promise of the swing wing was irresistible. A plane that could transform in midair, shifting its wings for takeoff, then slicing through the sky at nearly 3 times the speed of sound. But every inch of that transformation came at a cost measured in pounds. The titanium pivot that made the magic possible was a monster. 11 feet long, 2.5 feet thick, and tipping the scales at 4,600 pounds. What looked elegant in a blueprint became a brute in the assembly bay. Engineers watched as the mechanism grew heavier with every safety check, every new requirement, every additional system needed to keep it moving smoothly at Mach 3. The numbers turned grim. By 1968, the swing wing assembly alone threatened to eat up the payload, leaving little room for passengers or luggage. The more Boeing fought to save the feature, the more the physics pushed back. Canards were added to steady the nose, but that only added more weight. Fuel systems had to snake through the pivot, demanding even more structure. The airframe flexed under its own mass, and the plane's projected range began to shrink. The original dream of seating 277 travelers shrank to 234. Performance targets slipped out of reach. The swing wing, once the heart of the 2007's promise, became its heaviest liability. By October 1968, Boeing had no choice but to abandon the variable geometry and redesign the jet with a fixed delta wing. The cost was more than technical. It was a public admission that even America's best engineers couldn't outmuscle the laws of physics. The vulnerability was no longer hidden in the blueprints. It was out in the open, ready for the world to judge. The first sonic boom over Oklahoma City rattled windows and nerves, but it was only the beginning. For 6 months, Air Force jets thundered overhead, delivering 1,253 sonic booms on a schedule as regular as the morning mail. The damage piled up. 147 windows shattered in downtown towers, nearly 10,000 complaints logged, and a city that once tolerated the noise now organized in protest. Operation Bongo 2, meant as a scientific test, ended as a public relations disaster. The headlines spread far beyond Oklahoma. Across the country, anger over noise and property damage fueled a new environmental movement. People began to question whether the promise of speed justified a daily assault on their homes and peace of mind. The backlash found its champion in Charles Lindbergh. The hero of the Atlantic crossing stood before Congress and warned that the SST would bring a continuous bombardment to millions. His words carried the weight of aviation's golden age, and they landed hard. Lawmakers faced mounting pressure from constituents, scientists, and activists. Concerns about the ozone layer and stratospheric pollution surfaced in hearings, adding a new layer of uncertainty. The price tag was already staggering, $1 billion spent, with billions more needed. On March 17, 1971, the House voted 215 to 204 to pull the plug. In the Senate, the margin was even slimmer, 51 to 46 against further funding. Representative John Dingell, who led the charge, called it a victory for common sense over prestige. The vote wasn't just about noise or money. It was a turning point, a moment when environmental politics outmuscled Cold War ambition. The dream of an American supersonic airliner ended not with a crash, but with the tally of a razor-thin vote. Supersonic dreams still chase the horizon. Today, startups promise silent booms and faster jets, but the same barriers, physics, economics, public pushback, remain. Ambition alone won't solve them. Every new design echoes the same lesson. Progress flies only as far as society is willing to let it land. What's your take?